today we are going to be talking about business, entrepreneurship, and your family. How to keep a balance of the two. Because there is a way that you can be successful at both. You don't have to sacrifice your business for the sake of your family, and you don't have to sacrifice your family for the sake of your business. When starting and even while engaging in your business, the house and even your family relationships have a tendency to suffer. So, even though it's especially important to physically be involved with your business, it is equally important to be physically involved with relationships, especially that of family and other loved ones. It's important that before you start any new business venture, that a husband and wife should at least sit down and discuss the family implications of a new business. Now, consider starting a new business as something that is important, as something that is, you can't just go off and do that without talking to your family, especially if you're married, have a significant other. Okay? Because once you start a business, it's going to have an impact on the family, especially when you're first starting. You have that excitement, you have that passion about what it is that you're doing. But I think as entrepreneurs, especially when we're starting something that we're so very passionate about, that we lose sight of the other things that's going on around us. It is so important that before you even sit down with your significant other, that you've done the necessary research on your business. I mean, what would be the sense of telling your wife, of telling your husband, of telling your significant other, hey, let's sit down. I got a business idea that I want to, discuss with you. And you know absolutely nothing about what's going on with your business. That's a waste of time, and I can tell you that is very frustrating. So it is important that you first, whatever research you need to do with your business industry before you bring it to the attention of your family, specifically your spouse. Okay? So make sure that you've at least done the research. If you go to that spouse and say, look, I want to start this business, and you're not giving them any information about the business, what it is that you're trying to do, is it retail oriented, is it service oriented, you're not prepared. So if you are not prepared, then the business isn't going to be prepared. Your family certainly isn't going to be prepared. And guess what? It's not going to work. All right? Here's a little something that you can do. All right? Just take a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, write your average weekly, daily, and monthly activities. And that would be anything from going to the grocery store to going shopping to eating out to just whatever it is that you do on a weekly, daily, or even monthly basis. And then the next thing you should do is ask yourself this question. Okay, how will this particular activity change if I take on this new business? So if you go out monthly, how is it that starting this business is going to affect that? Because whatever affects you is going to affect the household, whether you like it or not. So this is the reason why it is so important to be able to have a balance between the two. You've written down your activities, right? How is it that starting a business is going to adversely, positively affect these activities? So beside each activity, just kind of have a column that says, okay, this activity will change, this activity might change, or this activity won't change. Okay? And you can't just come on, up willy-nilly and just say, this is what I'm doing. Because in your mind, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be for the betterment of the family. This is going to help me to create wealth, yada, yada, yada. And that is perfectly fine. That is wonderful. Because for me, that's one of the reasons why I did start my businesses, because I want to create wealth. I want to diversify my portfolio. I want to do all of those things. But if doing those things are now creating stresses within the household, you're not going to be as productive as you need to be. And so many things are going to fall through the cracks. You're not going to take the time to do the necessary research that needs to be done. And the first day that your business opens, within 30 days, you're closed. Okay? So those are the types of things that we're trying to avoid. And once again, we want you to succeed in business and we want you to succeed with your family as well. So once you sit down with your spouse, start asking each other these questions. Remember, you've listed your activities. You've also indicated whether that activity will change, whether it might change, or whether it won't change if you start this business. So the next thing is talk to your spouse and ask each other, okay, are you willing to sacrifice those items that are going to change? Are you willing to sacrifice changing some of these activities that you've gotten used to doing on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis? And once again, going out to dinner. You may not be able to go out to dinner until that business gets off its feet. Because remember, when you are first starting a business, especially if you don't want to take out a business loan, or even if you have taken out a business loan, some of the monies that you see going into the household that you are used to having in your household, some of that's going to have to go to the business. So you're not going to have so much coming in. So are you willing to make the necessary sacrifice for the business? And if that spouse says no, a few things are going to happen. Either your spouse isn't thinking like an entrepreneur, because in order to be an entrepreneur, your mindset has to change totally. And you can't have that employee mentality anymore. Okay? So maybe your spouse needs a little bit more time to kind of come up with his or her thinking to kind of meet you where you are. If that, if your significant other spouse says no, that's not an indication for you to become angry. That's not an indication for you to become resentful. All that does is indicates that they're not ready. And they're not ready, you're going to have conflict and strife within the household, and you're not going to have the balance that you need. If that particular spouse says no, you need to give them time to process. Okay? It's not time to start an argument. It's time for processing. All right? And I promise you, they will get to where you are, but you have to allow time for processing. It's important that you never do anything without an agreement between the two of you, between you and your spouse. Nothing spells disaster quicker than to have a spouse who's not on board with your new business venture. When you're starting a business, it's going to be a huge demand on your family and especially your marriages. So if the both of you are not enthusiastic about this choice, then you going on ahead and doing it anyway, like I said before, it's going to put more and more pressure on your relationship, and you're going to sacrifice in your relationship. And believe you me, I understand perfectly well about business because I own several, okay? And I know for me personally, if my husband wasn't on board with what I was doing, that would be a kind of like a hard pill to swallow for me. It really would. But I do also know from personal experience that you have to give them time to process, especially if they're not entrepreneur minded. Coming up, I wasn't taught anything about business. The thing that I was taught was you finish high school, you go to college, you get a degree, you get a good job, and you retire from that job. I wasn't taught about opening a business and doing these sorts of things. So when I started with my businesses, this was something that I had to learn by trial and error. You know, I had to learn how to do the processing because changing your mindset isn't something that happens overnight, especially if you're not business minded, you know. So again, this is where patience is going to come in, and this is where you're going to need to allow your significant other time to process. Now, if someone is just outward telling you no, you can't, blah 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 blah, and I refuse to, those are kind of different situations. Okay, I'm talking about mature adults living in the same house, and one wants to start a business. Okay, don't forget about prayer. So commit to spending some time in prayer over major decisions. Never make any major decision without including your spouse and your family in the decision making process. Okay? Include them. One thing that I have learned is that I can remember when I first started doing seminars and holding conferences and things of that nature. I thank God for my children and for my baby sisters because the four of them would come with me to every conference that I was holding, help with the registration process, as people walked in and making sure that they signed in and giving them the necessary handouts and things of that nature. I was including them in what it was that I was doing, and they had a better idea of what I was doing. And they did it free of charge, which was the most wonderful thing. All I had to do was feed those rascals after everything was over. But I included them in what it was that I was doing. Okay? So don't forget about doing that. And I think once you start including your spouse, now what do you think about this logo? What do you think about the colors that I should pick? I mean, just little small, simple things like that will show inclusion on your part. So it would also appear to them that you're not just trying to go off and do this thing by yourself, that you are including them in your decision making process, which will make their processing easier. And believe it or not, it would make it quicker. All right. So you get, a lot of things can come to you if you kind of give them a little honey with it and not always grab for that vinegar bottle. Okay. So just think about that. By doing that, you're showing that you're determined as well as committed to win at your business as well as to win in them helping you make the decision. Okay? Another thing, too, that I think kind of gets us is organization. If you are not an organized person, you're not going to have your business organized, your family ain't going to be organized. Uh, Everything has a place, so put everything in its place. Okay? And for me, once I have some organization going on, it makes life a lot simpler if you just take the time to put things back. And I know that that sounds crazy, but believe me, it works. And here's an example. I keep physical files as well as, my virtual files. Now, I know that keeping a physical file and having my file cabinets and things of that nature, some people might say, oh my God, you're still doing that? Yeah, I am. It works for me. So what's in my file cabinets mimics what's on the computer. Okay, I do both, and that's just what works for me. So I've got everything organized alphabetically. I've got areas where files are either dead. I've got areas where I still need to do something with these files. I've got areas where files are because I'm waiting for clients to respond to certain things. So it just kind of helps to keep me organized, as well as my virtual calendar. It helps to keep things organized. And then as far as the house is concerned, something that I recently did might sound simple to you, but I organized my junk drawer. And if anybody's sitting out there listening, going to sit there and tell me that they don't have a junk drawer, I'm going to tell you you a lie, and the truth ain't in you. Everybody has a junk drawer, whether it's in your kitchen, whether it's in your bedroom, whether it's in your utility room. And for those of you who are not from New Orleans and you don't know what a junk drawer is, it's a catch-all. If you have no other place to put anything, you don't feel like going putting it back, you stick it in that junk drawer and it stays there till infinity. Okay? I recently cleaned out my junk drawer, got rid of some things, bought me a little organizer to fit into that drawer. And now when I go into that drawer, I can see where everything is. Now, will it stay like that? I'm breaking fingers of anybody that goes into that drawer and undo my hard work. Okay? I'm going to wait and let that process. So, just by doing that can help you to focus on what needs to be done. Another thing that I've also incorporated, I keep a 9 to 5. All right? Now, my 9 to 5 may not be punching somebody else's clock, but I am not going to talk to clients before 9, and I'm not talking to clients after 5 unless it is something important going on and we really need to talk. You have to make sure that you are giving your family time. And because you're now starting a business, you know, you have to kind of juggle that a little bit better because more time is now being taken away from their time. And one thing that I can tell you is that if you don't try to keep some sort of balance between your business and your family, and it looks as though you're putting more time and effort into your business, resentment is going to start. Jealousy, whether they want to admit it or not, is going to start because now that business is your mistress, basically. Okay? And you don't want that. Set your hours from 9 until 5 or from 9 until 6 or whatever the case may be. Every email that you receive does not have to be answered that day. It can be answered the next day. Now, am I telling you to not call your clients back? No. Am I telling you that if you get a voicemail message not to return the call? No, that is not what I'm telling you. But everything doesn't have to be done right then and there. Everything off, that entrepreneurial mindset needs to be placed on hold, and now you have to devote that time to your family. Okay? Just kind of keeping that in mind, all right? And when you start having that 9 to 5, you're going to start, training your clients to know, don't call me before 9 and don't call me after 5 because you will not get a response unless it is something that is important. I had a client one time who called, and before I had an opportunity to call him back the next day, had left like 3 or 4 emails. Please give me a call. It's an emergency. Please give me a call. It's an emergency. So the next morning, it was about maybe 8 o'clock. I called him at 8 o'clock that morning. Okay, what's wrong? Nothing was actually stated in the email. What is going on? And so he goes, I just wanted to make sure that you received the facts. Okay, I'm going to sit still and let that one process too. And I'm not going to say nothing more about that. But I'm sure you get the drift. Okay? It can wait. Kind of stick to your schedule and give your family the time that they need. Okay? Because you don't want to create stress in the household. All right? You definitely want to keep that balance. I think the secret sauce is keeping everyone involved in what you're doing. It might be your business, and yeah, you might know the ins and outs of it, but kind of keep them involved in what's going on with it. Hey, do you like this? Do you like that? What you think about that? What do I need to do? If you're decorating your office, ask them to kind of help. What do you think about this? Keep them involved in what it is that you're doing. And I promise you, it is going to make a huge difference with everything that you're doing. Remember, before we go, it is important that your business life and your personal life be balanced. Because if you are a business-minded person, you're not going to feel fulfilled until you see that business through. And if you're also a family individual, you are not going to be fulfilled if your family is not intact. Believe you me, you can have both and you can be successful at both. All right? So, thanks again for tuning in, guys.